Welcome back to JForrest English. I'm Jennifer, and today we're going to read a news article together, an advanced news article, so you can learn all of the natural expressions, advanced vocabulary, and complex grammar naturally and easily. Let's get started. Our headline, nice and short, Life on Mars. A very interesting topic. A new study published in the journal Science shows definitive evidence of organic matter on the surface of Mars. Organic matter simply means living matter, matter that is living. For example, in this picture, it looks like there's some green. When you see green, you think plants, so it looks like living matter, organic matter. Now let's take a look at this. Shows evidence. Shows definitive evidence. When I see this, I say, wow, definitive evidence. Definitive is an adjective that means firm, final, or complete. So this evidence is firm. It's final. You can think of it as not to be questioned. So you can't question this evidence. It's firm and final. So real evidence. It makes it a lot stronger. Of organic matter on the surface of Mars. Now notice here we have the journal Science, and you see that Science has a capital S. This is because it's a proper noun, and you need to capitalize the first letter of a proper noun. Proper noun, and it's a proper noun because the name of the journal is Science. That's why it has a capital S. But if you were just talking about the subject, science, I love science class, you don't need to capitalize it because in this case, it's not a proper noun. The data was collected by NASA's nuclear-powered rover Curiosity. Again, this is a great example. Curiosity, which you probably know as a noun, curiosity is a good thing when you're a student, but in this case, it's the name of the rover. The name of the rover is Curiosity, and that's why we have a capital first letter. It's a proper noun. It confirms, the rover Curiosity confirms earlier findings that the red planet once contained carbon-based compounds. I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure what a carbon-based compound is. It's a compound that contains carbon. That's all I know about that. Red planet is another name for the planet Mars because it is red. So when you see red planet, you know they're talking about Mars. These compounds, they're talking about the carbon-based compounds, also called organic molecules, are essential ingredients for life as scientists understand it. Now notice how they explain what these compounds are or why they're important, because the average person, like me, who doesn't have a scientific background, has no idea what a carbon-based compound is. So they explain what this is. So now I know, okay, essential meaning very important, extremely important, and not just important, very important. Essential ingredients for life as scientists understand it. So now I know you can't have life without these carbon-based compounds, and they have found definitive evidence that these compounds exist on Mars, the red planet, essentially saying that life on Mars is possible. I've summarized all of the lesson notes, and you can find them in a free lesson PDF. You can look for the link in the description or in the first comment. Let's continue. The organic molecules were found in Mars's Gale crater, a large area that may have been a watery lake over 3 billion years ago. The rover encountered traces of the molecule in rocks extracted from the area. When you extract something, it means you remove it or take it out. So they have a rock, and within this rock, there are molecules. So they took those molecules out, they extracted it. This is also the terminology you use if you need to get a tooth removed. you can extract a tooth, which means simply to remove it. So to remove or take out. To remove or take out. And you remove something generally from something else. So you extract the molecules from the rock. The rocks also contain sulfur, which scientists speculate helped preserve the organics even when the rocks were exposed to the harsh radiation on the surface of the planet. Remember, we're talking about the planet Mars. Now let's take a look at this verb, speculate, a very common verb. When you speculate on something, it means you essentially guess what the answer is. And you do that because you don't have enough information to be certain. If you're certain, it means you 100% know, so you can present that information as a fact. But if you're just guessing, you use the verb speculate. So when your audience hears speculate, they know that you are not 100% certain. You are, in fact, guessing. So scientists speculate, so they don't actually know that this is 100% correct. It's their best guess based on the information they have. Scientists speculate helped preserve the organics even when the rocks were exposed to the harsh radiation. Let's take a look at harsh. Harsh is an adjective. So I could say exposed to the radiation, which means the radiation affected it. It was in the same area as the radiation. So it was exposed to the radiation, to the harsh radiation. So harsh is an adjective that modifies radiation, and harsh means unpleasant, unkind, cruel, or more severe than necessary. So radiation is very strong, and they're saying that this radiation was very severe, perhaps more severe than it usually is. The harsh radiation on the surface of the planet. Let's move on. Scientists are quick to state that the presence of these organic molecules is not sufficient evidence for ancient life on Mars, as the molecules could have been formed by non-living processes. So here they're casting some doubt. Ancient life on Mars? So they're saying right now we don't have enough evidence to say that previously, in ancient times, there was life on Mars. So that would be ancient life. So not sufficient is saying we don't have enough evidence. Not sufficient. So not enough. Not enough to be convincing. Not enough. And in this case, to convince. You could say, I don't have sufficient time. So in that case, it's not enough time to do something. I don't have sufficient time to complete this article. I don't have enough time to do it. So the scientists are suggesting there could be another reason why these molecules are there. But it's still one of the most astonishing discoveries, which could lead to future revelations. Let's take a look at astonishing as an adjective. This means surprising, or it can be amazing. That was astonishing. That was amazing. But maybe it was, oh, that was astonishing. It was surprising at the same time. So it depends on how it's being used. In this case, it could be really either. The most astonishing discoveries, which could lead to future revelations. Let's look at revelation. In this case, it's a noun. It comes from the verb reveal. So when you reveal something, you make that information known. It's the same case as a revelation. A revelation is when a fact becomes known. Now, it can be when a unknown fact becomes known. So before we didn't know it, and now we know it. It's a revelation. Or it can be when a secret fact becomes known. So certain people knew it, but the general public did not. So when the general public found out, what a revelation. Remember, this comes from the verb to reveal. And you reveal a secret, which means you share a secret that you previously had not shared. Especially when one considers the other startling find that Curiosity uncovered around 5 years ago. Remember, Curiosity is the name of NASA's Rover, which is the machine that operates on the surface of the planet Mars. Now let's look at startling as an adjective. A startling find, when something is startling, it's surprising, but usually in a worrisome way. So you could say, I went to the doctor and I got some startling news. That doesn't sound very good because it's news that surprised you, but generally in a negative way, in a worrisome way. So especially when one considers the other startling find that Curiosity uncovered around 5 years ago. So we'll find out what that startling find is. That surprising find, but somehow in some sort of a negative way, perhaps a worrisome way. The rover analyzes the air around it periodically. Periodically is an adverb that means from time to time, periodically. From time to time. So consistently means all the time, but periodically means perhaps once a week or once a day. So on a schedule, but not all the time, which would be consistently. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers on TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English and learn advanced phrasal verbs, idioms, expressions, and vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation all in a very natural, fun, engaging way. And you'll have me as your personal coach. So you can look in the description or the comment section for more information on how to join. Now let's continue on. And in 2014, Rover, it found the air contained another of the most basic organic molecules and a key ingredient of natural gas, methane. So the rover found another molecule on the planet Mars, methane. One of the characteristics of methane is that it only survives a few hundred years. So a few hundred, to me, that sounds like 300, maybe 400, maybe 500, because a few is more than two, because two is a couple. A couple hundred years is two, and few is generally more than two, but definitely less than 10, 3 to 5, I would say, a few hundred years. This means that something somewhere on Mars is replenishing the supply. When something is replenished, it means it's filled up again. So for example, if a lake had water and then there was a drought, very dry conditions, and all the water evaporated. So if you put more water in that lake, you're replenishing the lake. You're filling the lake again. So they're saying that something on the planet Mars is replenishing the supply of methane, which could be the startling find. It's surprising, and maybe there's reason to be concerned. What is this that's replenishing the supply? How is it doing this? What does it mean for us on Earth? That could be the startling part. According to NASA, Mars emits thousands of tons of methane at a time. The verb emit simply means to produce or to send out, to produce or send out, but we use this in very specific cases. We use it with gases in this case. We also use this with sounds. So the truck emits a lot of gas, for one, and a lot of noise. Oh, the sound that truck is emitting or the building is emitting, it's really hurting my ears. We also use this for light. So the airport emits a lot of light. It's blinding. Mars emits thousands of tons of methane at a time. The level of methane rises and falls at seasonal intervals in the year, almost as if the planet is breathing it. Sounds a little strange. Perhaps that's the startling information here. NASA suspects the methane comes from deep under the surface of the planet. The variations in temperature on the surface of Mars cause the molecule, which is methane, to flow upwards at higher or lower levels. Okay, so this is the scientists are speculating, because if you suspect something, you don't know for sure. Otherwise, you would say NASA knows the methane comes, but they suspect, which means they're about 80% sure. They're guessing. So again, you could also use the verb speculate. NASA speculates the methane comes from deep under the surface. So they don't know 100%. For example, in the winter, the gas could get trapped in underground icy crystals. Okay, so this is what's happening to the methane. These crystals, called clathrates, melt in the summer and release the gas. So this is their theory on how this gas is being released at different times of the year. In winter, it's frozen. The gas is frozen in these icy crystals. But in summer, when these crystals melt, they release the methane. Again, this is not a fact because they're speculating. They suspect this is what is happening. They don't know it to be true. However, the source of the methane is still a complete mystery. Complete is an adjective, and it means very great or the highest possible. So we're saying it's a mystery, but not just a mystery. Imagine the greatest mystery you've ever thought of. That's a complete mystery. It's a very great mystery, the highest mystery possible. It's a complete mystery. So the source, meaning how the methane is there originally. Where does the methane come from? That is a complete mystery. The world of astrobiology considers both of these studies a historical milestone. A milestone is an important event, and it's an important event in history or in your life as well. An important event in history or one's life. For example, one of the big milestones is when you graduate from school. That's a milestone. That's an important event in your life. When you graduate, when you get married, when you get your first job, when you have a baby, you buy your first car, buy your first house. These are all milestones. But of course, there are also historical milestones. And the information found in these studies is one of those milestones. According to this information, Mars is not a dead planet. So of course, a dead planet would be a planet that cannot sustain life. On the contrary, we use this as a transition word when we want to introduce a contrasting point. So dead planet is the 1 point. Now, the contrasting point would have to show something with life, and we can use on the contrary. Mars is not a dead planet. On the contrary, it is quite active with life, with molecules, with organic matter, and may be changing and becoming more habitable. If you describe something as habitable, it means you're able to live there because the conditions are appropriate. So, able to live there. For example, a very, very old house that has a lot of damage might not be habitable. It's not suitable to live there. You're not able to live there. Or after a flood or natural disaster, maybe your home is no longer habitable. Of course, this means further research is necessary. Scientists say they need to send new equipment to Mars, equipment that can measure the air and soil with more precision. More precision is another way of saying more accuracy. Accuracy. They need to be more accurate. There are already missions underway. Underway means they're in progress now. In progress now. In progress now. The European Space Agency's ExoMars ship lands in 2020 and will be able to drill into the ground on Mars to analyze what it finds. Additionally, NASA is sending another Mars rover in the same year to collect samples of Martian soil and return them to Earth. So, Martian, this comes from the word Mars. Just like if you live in Italy, you're an Italian. If you live on Mars, you're a Martian. That can be something you can maybe look forward to. So, live on Mars equals Martian. Martian soil, Italian wine, pizza, tomatoes, for example, Martian soil. And notice how Mars, Martian, Earth also have that capital first letter because they are proper nouns. Remember, we talked about proper nouns at the beginning. Proper nouns, so you need capital first letter. And here, NASA is in all capitals because we also capitalize acronyms. So each letter stands for something. To be honest, I don't know what NASA stands for. I think the SA is Space Agency. National, what's the A? Association? Space Agency? That doesn't sound right. What is the acronym for NASA? Do you know? Put it in the comments because honestly, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure SA is Space Agency, but I don't know what the N and the A stand for because nobody ever says it. Everybody says NASA. Let's continue. Again, let me know in the comments. The possibility of life on Mars has fascinated humans for generations. It has been the subject of endless science fiction novels and films. If you describe something as endless, it means again and again and again. So as you know, there are always movies and books about aliens, Martians, life on other planets, right? So again and again and again, non-ending. Again and again, non-ending, endless. Are we alone in the universe? Ooh. Or have there been other life forms within our solar system? If the current missions to the red planet, which again means Mars, if the current missions to the red planet continue, it looks as if we may discover the answer very soon. Wow, isn't that an interesting way to end an article? So that's our article on Mars. Now I will go back and I'll read the article from start to finish, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Life on Mars. A new study published in the journal Science shows definitive evidence of organic matter on the surface of Mars.
The data was collected by NASA's nuclear-powered rover Curiosity. It confirms earlier findings that the red planet once contained carbon-based compounds. These compounds, also called organic molecules, are essential ingredients for life as scientists understand it. The organic molecules were found in Mars's Gale crater, a large area that may have been a watery lake over 3 billion years ago. The rover encountered traces of the molecule in rocks extracted from the area. The rocks also contain sulfur, which scientists speculate helped preserve the organics even when the rocks were exposed to the harsh radiation on the surface of the planet. Scientists are quick to state that the presence of these organic molecules is not sufficient evidence for ancient life on Mars, as the molecules could have been formed by non-living processes. But it's still one of the most astonishing discoveries, which could lead to future revelations. Especially when one considers the other startling find that Curiosity uncovered around 5 years ago. The rover analyzes the air around it periodically, and in 2014, it found the air contained another of the most basic organic molecules and a key ingredient of natural gas, methane. One of the characteristics of methane is that it only survives a few hundred years. This means that something, somewhere on Mars, is replenishing the supply. According to NASA, Mars emits thousands of tons of methane at a time. This level of methane rises and falls at seasonal intervals in the year, almost as if the planet is breathing it. NASA suspects the methane comes from deep under the surface of the planet. The variations in temperature on the surface of Mars cause the molecule to flow upwards at higher and higher levels. For example, in the winter, the gas could get trapped in underground icy crystals. These crystals, called clathrates, melt in the summer and release the gas. However, the source of the methane is still a complete mystery. The world of astrobiology considers both of these studies as historical milestones. According to this information, Mars is not a dead planet. On the contrary, it is quite active and may be changing and becoming more habitable. Of course, this means further research is necessary. Scientists say they need to send new equipment to Mars, equipment that can measure the air and soil with more precision. There are already missions underway. The European Space Agency's ExoMars ship lands in 2020 and will be able to drill into the ground on Mars to analyze what it finds. Additionally, NASA is sending another Mars rover in the same year to collect samples of Martian soil and return them to Earth. The possibility of life on Mars has fascinated humans for generations. It has been the subject of endless science fiction novels and films. Are we alone in the universe, or have there been other life forms within our solar system? If the current missions to the red planet continue, it looks as if we may discover the answer very soon.
If you like this lesson, then make sure you subscribe because I post lessons like this every single week. And make sure you get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can get it from my website right here. And why don't you get started with your next lesson right now?